Hello, Representative Tim Burchett. How are you?
Burchett. It's Burchett, but that's okay.
I that was going to be my first question. Lately, I've heard people saying that it's Burchett, like it's
Yeah,
French or
well,
something.
I just don't correct them. Sometimes I'm on these news shows and they got this multi-million-dollar audience, and I don't want to embarrass them. But then I was on Sean Hannity the other night, and he said Tom Burchett, and I was like, it's actually Tim. He goes, it is. He goes, I'm going to fire my staff. I said, please don't. I said, they'll never have me back on. See, the only person
Well,
I've ever heard say my name right the first time is Trump, President Trump. They say he'll get in front of they'll tell him a name and he'll get in front of a mirror and he'll go, Burchett, Burchett, Burchett. And so he gets it right. Nobody else does, though. So,
that was a great impression of him. That
yeah,
was
thank
pretty
you.
good.
I've been around him quite a bit. Anyway, what can I do for you, brother? What's going on? Thank you. And
Well,
thank you so much for having me on. It's an honor.
well, it's an honor for me because I'm a Tennessee boy too, and I was actually born in Morristown.
Oh,
Is
wow.
that in your district or just north of it?
It was, that's in Jeff County, correct?
Is it Hamlin or no?
You got, yeah, up there. Anyway, it was,
Yeah, up there somewhere. Yeah,
yes, sir. It's not. It's not. My wife was from up there, so
yeah.
um, uh, I mean, well, she wasn't from there, but I'm when I married her, she lived up there, so brought her back to Knoxville.
Then when I was 5, my parents moved us to the progressive city of Chattanooga.
Mm,
So I've been suffering through that for the past 50 years. But
it's all right.
uh, just kidding. But I didn't know if you knew much about Chattanooga politics. Other, I'm
I
sure.
do. I do. I've known your mayors and back and forth, and your legislators, and I know Bob Corker and the U.S.
Oh,
Senator over there, and I know Weston Wamp over there. I think he's your county mayor over there, I believe.
yeah, I have a lot of respect for Bob Corker. I worked for him back in the '90s, and he
Yeah,
was just a whiz bang. He did a lot for Chattanooga. He got us
he's
high speed internet and all kinds of infrastructure. He was
crazy smart.
he was
Crazy.
awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's been a good friend of my family's. He and my dad were close. My dad just worked at the university. But
You
anyway,
know, the name of the show is, PiFi, people I find interesting. And one thing I find interesting about people is how they got to where they are,
yep.
especially successful people. And I was wondering what got you interested into politics, earlier in life. Was it early in life?
Well, it was. My dad was on the old city school board here in Knoxville, and he was involved in politics back in the day. He had a crazy idea of naming a school after a black lady who just happened to still be alive, and people didn't like that, and he figured out a way to do it, and lady named Sarah Moore Green, and they built the school out. And Sarah, she was 100 years old and came to my daddy's funeral. So,
Wow.
and they were close, and I remember the police cars parked in front of the house, and we had death threats and stuff. Back then you didn't have caller ID, you didn't have cell phones. You had two and a half. I remember coming home and Daddy said he was sitting on the front porch with a 12 gauge shotgun across his lap, and I said,
Huh.
"What's going on, Daddy?" And he said, "No, nothing. Going in. I thought we were going to go hunting, but we didn't hunt on the we didn't hunt or fish on weekdays. Mama was a school teacher, Daddy was a dean at UT, so I thought, well, we're going hunting on a weekday. This is something new." And he said, "No, going in the house and watch TV." We were kind of outside kids, we played
Yeah.
outside,
Yeah.
tough skin jeans and uh, and and knock off Converse high tops. And so I go in, and I didn't know it, but he'd had some death threats. Anyway, Dad names the school after her, and anyway, it's still there, and it's pretty cool. But fast forward, me, I was an entrepreneur. I was a weird kid. I got involved in organic gardening, and I'd look at soil, and I'd say, "Man, this." You look at soil, it's like the back of a clock or a watch before they all got electronic and everything. It's just all these moving parts. There's nematodes, and I mean, there's worms and the soil, of course, and the roots, and it's like God's handiwork. And you take one part of that out, and the whole thing just kind of goes haywire. Well, I got involved in organic gardening because my dad would garden, and he'd spend at that time. I remember him spending like $20 one year on fertilizers and bug sprays and all this other stuff. And you get like 3 of these gnarly tomatoes that hideous. And then he just, it ain't worth it. So he gave it up. And I said, well, can I try it? And he said, sure, go ahead. I said, so I thought I'd try this organic gardening. And I did. And, I was in 7th grade then, actually. And I thought, wow. And I stopped a truck out in front of the house that was grinding up trees. And they'd take that stuff to the landfill back then. And I said, what are y'all doing with that? And they said, we take it to the landfill. And they said, what do they pay you for it? And I said, they don't. We pay them to take it. I thought, wow, I thought, man, that's a business idea. So fast forward to college, politics, young entrepreneur. I come up with this idea of taking all the city's yard waste. And that year we had a blizzard. We were supposed to take 10,000 tons. We got 10,000 tons just in a short amount of time. And people were accusing me of taking toxic waste. And it was just a crazy thing. And the EPA actually came in and tested it. And the state was trying to run me out of business. And then EPA came in. I lost the business. And I remember the day after I lost the business, I got the report from the EPA that actually cleared me and said, in fact, there is bacteria in this. Of course, you and I know the human body has a 1/4 pound of bacteria in it. Aids digestion. You have to have bacteria. The world has to. God put it there for a purpose. And so I ended up losing the business, and I had to do something with all that frustration. And I guess I could sit on a bar stool, but I don't drink. So that was kind of out of it. So I thought, I'm going to run for office. And I said, if I ever got in office, I would never turn my back on somebody who's in a bind, because rich people can hire a lawyer. But literally, they came after me and they were threatening a felony. I would go in these meetings and they'd cost me, I'd have to take a couple of lawyers and engineers. It would cost me $500,000 an hour to go to these meetings. And I can remember at that time, Bill Clinton had this thing called Travelgate, where the travel office out of the Capitol was run by this group, these folks that had been doing it for years, and they were good and honest people. And then Clinton ruined them and accused them of all this stuff. And then just to run them, it's Arkansas style, just to run them out of office. And I remember they were traveling the country, going on the radio talking, and it was like $250,000 their legal fees. And hell, mine was that much, for my little deal. And so I raised it. I made a great deal of money in that business, saved the taxpayers $500,000 a year, saved 1/4 of our landfill space, actually. And I'd saved every penny. But I lost every penny, paying for attorneys and engineers and everything. And then lost the business, had 16 or I don't know how many front page articles above the fold, and that trashed me. And so I ran for office, knocked on over 6,000 doors, and won by about a little over 2.5 percentage points, I think, in a state house race. Out of 99 house races that year, I was the only person to beat an incumbent. So, I get it. These people out here struggling, and the government is not doing anything but running them out. And I
really feel like they're the kind of person that really represents your constituents, right? You see a lot of people become elected just because of the money they have to spend on becoming elected. But you seem to me like you're very connected to your constituents, people you represent. I think that's awesome.
Well, thank you. They pay my salary. I always like to say, you got a problem, I got a problem.
My grandparents lived in Knoxville, and we used to go visit them on the weekends. And you said something, you were talking about gardening. My grandmother always made me go out and pick the okra.
Yeah.
Sticky,
Oh, yeah.
Mess. And
then wow, it's a cool, great flower though, yellow with brown
streaks.
It's really cool. Almost looks like something prehistoric.
And she would get mad at me when I didn't string the green beans properly. She would get mad if I left too many strings in there. My grandfather would sit at the table and say, that was Tony leaving those strings in the beans. It's kind of funny. But I did want to ask you a question. I'm curious about also how you got involved with the UFO scene.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
You didn't have people from the intelligence community come to you and say, hey, we need somebody to, and I know that's a weird question, but
that's a legitimate question. What happened was, I knew about it. I was a weird kid. That's what I would read about when I guess other kids were out doing whatever. I was in the creeks catching crawdads or fishing or hunting or whatever. But sometimes in the summer, my parents would. Now you'd probably go to jail for it. They'd drop me off at the library. I'd take my bike over there, and cross Kingston Pike at the little West Knox Library right there, and I'd look at, and they had these books set out, and they had them out, Bigfoot and UFOs and all this other stuff, and it just fascinated me, and so I started reading about it, and then and it just always caught my attention, caught my eye, and I'd read the magazine articles, and there'd be an article in the paper, and I'd clip it out, UFO spotted somewhere or whatever, and it's, there was the technology back then was for us what we thought it was, but now, it's so antiquated. But, and so I just became interested. I read about in the Bible, first chapter Genesis, God created the heavens and the earth. Then you read Ezekiel. Ezekiel saw the wheel, which is a King James interpretation, but it is it basically describes what was most technologically advanced item back then, and that was a wheel, and a wheel within a wheel. So you'd think of a flying saucer. That's what when you hear of a classic flying saucer. So I was asked by the media giant TMZ, of all people, the guy, he's a black fella who's the guy who is their cameraman, and he's a buddy of mine, and he'd throw out obscure stuff to me on a slow day, and he said, "Hey, what do you think about this UFO report?" And I said, "It looked like a piece of Swiss cheese." I said, "It ain't gonna do anything." I said, "Look, more people believe in UFOs than believe in Congress." And they were like, "Wow, that's a great quote." And I ended up I sell a T-shirt on my website for my campaign that says just that: more people believe in UFOs than believe in Congress. It's a pretty hot item, actually. But and then it just fell in my lap. People started calling me from all over the country and then all over the world. And, I made, and then Representative Luna out of Florida, and Jared Moskowitz, a Democrat buddy of mine, it's bipartisan, and Matt Gaetz and others. We started talking about it, and we said, we need a hearing. Let's get it. And I knew the people to ask to be in the hearing. In every turn, we had an obstacle, either from people in our own party or at the Pentagon, and they'll deny it. I don't care. It was huge, though. They cannot deny it was huge. There was over 1,000 people there. It's the largest committee that I was told in the last 15 years that people showed up for. And I got up at 4:30 to be on Fox News. Dadgummit, there were people lined up outside already at 4:30 in the morning. And it was a monster. And now we the genie's out of the bottle, and you have a Pentagon, as I like to call them, the war pimps, who don't want to, who tell us they don't exist, and told us that since at least 1947. Yet now they're smelling dollars, and and Schumer's got this bill it's going to be a clearinghouse for you, and then all they're going to do is say, hey, it's a national security risk, and they're going to stop every bit of information from flowing out.
I have this little thing I say that I'm more skeptical of humans than ET.
Yeah. And I'm not worried about them. I'm not worried. Yeah. People are worried. With that technology, they could have done us in a long time ago.
Yeah, I think so too. I had a show last night, and with a fellow named Dr. Dan Villiers, and anyway, that's kind of unrelated, but he knows Stephen Greenstreet. So Stephen Greenstreet pops in for like 30 minutes. Are you familiar with Stephen Greenstreet?
No, I'm not.
He's the New York Post writer who's the most skeptical person.
Oh, yeah. I've seen him on stuff. He's come on after me and trashed me, I think, a couple of times.
Well, I kind of I almost had to put a stop to that, because he was very critical, and most of our conversation was centered around Congress as a whole, not you, obviously. But I asked him to imagine. I said, okay, on your worst day, pretend that you believe. What would you imagine it would be? And he couldn't really go there, but he seems to think that it's sort of a cover for national defense failure, so because we have, his thing is maybe, and of course this was just something he came up with because I asked him to, I asked him
Sure.
to imagine it, and he said, maybe it's Chinese drones and they've infiltrated our airspace, and
Yeah.
we need to cover for that, and the intelligence community's covering. What do you think about those?
Well, if it was Putin, he'd land one on the White House lawn and get out bare chested probably and ride a unicorn out and punch Biden in the mouth and then get back in it and ride back to Mother Russia. They wouldn't be locked down in this worthless war. I mean, honestly, if it was China, we wouldn't be worrying about, they wouldn't be even in negotiations with us about Taiwan. This is ridiculous. These things, Mach
That's
5,
that's a
they
good point.
Mach
Yeah,
5, they don't have a heat signature. They fly, they go underwater, they come out. We've had, the pilots chasing the dadgum things, Tony. I mean, my gosh, they,
yeah.
and we in testimony, a sworn testimony, and they described it. Get on the, have your viewers, ask them to go watch the Tic Tac videos, not TikTok, not like the Chinese Communist propaganda, but Tic Tac like the breath mint, and look at those videos. It's just, the Pentagon said they don't exist, and then all of a sudden this comes out, and now they're scrambling trying to figure out a way to make money.
Hmm. So you don't think there's any coordination between, when you look at it from the outside and you see, Lou Elizondo, who I've had on the show twice. He seems like
Yeah,
a
I know
nice
Lou.
guy. He's really nice. I like Lou.
I
You
love him.
got
He's a good
Chris
guy.
Mellon, David Fravor or Ryan Graves. It does kind of appear that there's some sort of organized effort from the intelligence community. If you just look at it, I'm saying if you just take a glance at it, it seems I could see where people would draw that conclusion. That
Sure.
there's some sort of organized effort. But you think that I'm asking, you think
Yeah,
that all
I either think it's extraterrestrial or a combination of us um, reverse engineering. But I don't. I just think the technology is so far superior to ours. We're so arrogant to think we're the smartest things out there. I mean, I'm a motorcycle guy, so imagine taking a Harley Davidson back to the people at the Mayflower. It'd be a
yeah,
bright, shiny object. They'd have it there. They're never going to learn how to put gas in it. They're not going to know how to pull the spark plugs, adjust the fuel injection or the carburetors, what have you, put air in the tires. They're not going to get that. They might get it started, but that's about it. And that's what we are. Maybe we've advanced further than that. Some of this stuff we've had it for so long, but I just think that it's a huge cover up.
I've been interested in this since I was around 12 years old when I thought I saw a UFO, and and I've seen the periods where there was this excitement built up over the years. That was in the mid 70s.
Yeah, I
It
remember
seems
that.
like
Sure.
every 10, 15 years there's an excitement period, and then it kind of dies back
Yeah.
down. But this period this recent seems to be a little more intense. It
Well,
seems to be.
the super information age. I mean, we're getting information like that. That's what's going to have to happen. Somebody's going to have to walk out of one of those labs with undeniable proof, either a picture or something or a video, and put it on YouTube before they commit suicide by shooting themselves in the back of the head 5 times, and and put it out there because that's what's going to have to happen. And of course, I'm not calling for somebody to commit espionage because I think a lot of it's in private corporation hands at some point.
I guess that's how it's has been kept secret so long. I
Yeah,
guess.
and two, your Pentagon, we audit them every year, and they lose $1 billion. They lose billions of dollars. At one time, we were told that we didn't know where 60% of our assets were, and you got to wonder how congressmen and women are making 70+% return on their investments. No, man, they're
Yeah.
this thing's crooked and it stinks.
Do you think? Do you think you'll ever get into a skiff with David Grush or any of those others, or do you think they're just making an offer to? Uh,
Well, the problem we got is, of course, if they tell you that in the skiff, you can't talk about it, so they lock you down. I would caution people about that. I think what we need to do is, and I'm talking to Speaker McCarthy. I've got a meeting in September to have a meeting with him and have about a select committee that has subpoena power. We can call these people in and bring some of this into the light.
Do you think David Grush meets the definition of a whistleblower?
I do, and I think
Okay.
it shows exactly what whistleblower protection means. He gets crucified in public. They leak information about him. Granted, it was public information, the arrest they made, but somebody in the intelligence community leaked that.
And that's the thing. Even if I was a sort of a opposed to this whole thing, I would never you know expose someone's mental health records from the past. I think that's sort of
It's
you
a
know that
it's a dirtbag move, man.
yeah.
PTSD is a real thing now, and we're encouraging veterans to come forward. And then this happens. No, this is bad. This is bad all the way around. This would be an awesome opportunity for Congress to do the right thing and come forward and say, we take you serious, whistleblowers, and we're going to provide you with protection and go after those that try to persecute you.
I was surprised to hear David Grush talk about people that had been harmed. I mean,
Yeah.
he made it seem kind of serious, like people had actually
Yeah,
maybe.
you're talking about billions of dollars in research and things of that nature. It is a real deal, and you gotta realize that you're talking about billions of dollars. People lose their life over a nickel bag of crack cocaine.
Are there any investigations into those happenings or
no?
So that was one thing I was curious about. I was thinking, like, if you know about these things, I wonder why they're not being investigated, or maybe they are. I thought maybe privately they were being investigated.
Congress is compromised, man.
I hate to say it, but it seems like it because you can't. It's like people are losing trust.
Well, the genie's out of the bottle on this issue, and you have committee members from both sides. And other committees that want to control it, so they're going to trash everything about this because this is the way it's supposed to work. We're not supposed to be the gatekeepers for some secret, dirty little secret. It's just like the Kennedy assassination, man. It's over 60 years ago, and they will not release the files. Release them. Just release them.
That is amazing to me. I did have one question. It's not really UFO related, but I had asked for questions from my audience, and one of them was, and it's really off the wall, but he's in the audience, so I'm going to go ahead and ask. It's
Sure.
What do you think of about civil asset forfeiture, and can you do something about it?
Yeah, civil asset forfeiture is used by government. The intent, of course, is it always ends up being a good intent, but the reality was it's an intent to seize your assets with no due process. I'm not a big fan of that. They use it to go after drug dealers and others, and somebody has an enormous amount of cash driving down the highway and can't produce receipts for it. Well, they do that without a court order, and then you see law enforcement use it to buy ridiculous things. Let's put it back in the courts. Let's slow down a little bit. Let's follow the Constitution. Let's follow the law. It's not illegal to walk around with $50,000 in cash. It's again, you might have gotten it, maybe ill-gotten gains. I'd like to know how you got it. You might need to have your ass busted and spend some time in federal penitentiary. But regardless, I have a real problem with that.
I have another question about who you're supporting for the 2024 election, if you can say.
I'm supporting me. I'm on the ballot. I don't.
Well, of course, we're going to vote for you.
Well, thank you. No, I stay out. I'm trying to. It's obviously a Republican. It's going to be Trump. I don't think there's any way around that unless they figure out some way to remove him from the ballot. It will be Trump in the Republican Party. And right now it looks like Joe Biden. So it's just a rehash.
Can he? there has been questions asked of me about whether he could actually run or not. I think he
Yeah,
can actually run.
there's nothing to prevent him from running.
Yeah. What do you think about Vivek? What's his name?
Yeah,
Ramsey?
the Indian fella. Yeah, I
Yeah.
like him. I actually he tweeted to me, during the or about me or did something. I think during the UFO hearing. So
He seems like a good guy. He
he's
seems.
super smart. Better watch him. He ain't going away. And
I,
and the Indian American community is super patriotic and hard working folks. I love them.
they really are. And they're really smart people.
They're entrepreneurs. Well,
Yeah.
they work hard is what they do. That's how they get it. They see the American dream and they work hard. And their former ambassador was a friend of mine. She was great, and I enjoy those folks. I can't eat their dadgum food, but I love them. We just had India Fest. Me and my buddy went down there, and Chris Haggerty's a judge here in town. We ate. I let him eat all the food. I couldn't eat it, but they've been great to me. So I can't say enough good things about the Indian community.
He, for some reason, he kind of excites me. Just hearing him speak. It's been a long time since anybody has done that. The way he just clearly.
Oddly enough, I did not watch 1 second of the debate. I haven't watched one since George Bush Sr. I think. You bring your side, I bring my side. We both leave thinking we won. I just don't think it moves the needle. I think it's a press thing. It's a thing to hire people and consultants, and they tell you what color tie to wear. Which way to. It's just a show. And
I tried to watch.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I tried to watch. I tried to watch a few minutes of it, but there's no. It seems like professionalism goes out the door in those. That where people are talking over each other. No one respects the time. They don't respect each other. So I can't watch them either. They're just. I don't know. I remember when I was a teen, it seemed like we had more. Debates were more civilized.
Well, now it's just a gotcha thing for the press and the instant media and the drive-by media, as they call it, and and the cell phones. It's just anyway.
Do you think that there is any sort of I have these people telling me, there's these years coming up where there's going to be these events, and this is why disclosure is really important. Do you think there's anything to that kind of talk where that this needs to be gotten out, or do you think it's just
what are you talking about?
Well, I'm not a big conspiracy theory guy, right? I try to just keep my mind healthy and just stay away from it. But you'll hear these dates. Oh, 2027 is a year that so these efforts of disclosure are ramping up to a certain event.
Yeah, I don't get into that much. I really don't. I hear a lot of that talk, and and the same people are telling me that. The ones telling me they're going to come out. Obama wasn't born in America, which he might have been or might not.
Yeah.
They're going to throw him out of office. And Trump was going to be the president, and Biden wasn't going to be sworn in. I swear, the guys swear. I swear it's going to happen. I said, dude, no, you don't get it. It's going to happen, And I said, no, it's not. And Jan said, well, we have more hearings. I hope so. If on the UFO issue, I hope we do. If Speaker McCarthy allows it, and I'll have a meeting with him somewhere midway through September when we get back to DC.
Those were my questions. Do you have anything that? Well, let me ask you about your flag. I have my brother's flag. I noticed the flag in your bookshelf.
Yeah, that's one that was given to me. I've got, if it was in my Knoxville office, that was a flag that flew over Iraq. A constituent of mine was over there, and they're in some combat operations. Operate as Base Delta, Al Quds, Iraq, and they. I've got a 48 star flag though in my Knoxville office. It was on my uncle's casket. He died fighting the Nazis. My daddy was off fighting the Japanese. So I'm honored that they would fly one for me though. That was pretty cool.
One of my favorite interviews was about 10 years ago with Clinton Riddle. He lived, I don't know if you've heard of him. He lived in near Athens, and he was there part of the invasion on D-Day, and
Yeah.
he flew one of the gliders in. He told me that they only trained for like a week on flying these gliders, and that when they would basically crash land,
Yeah.
and most of the people that died crashing them, excuse me, were when like the equipment, like the jeeps or whatever, would come loose and run over. There was more dangerous.
Oh yeah, it was horrible. Those
Yeah,
gliders were. I mean, they were like ducks on a pond, man. They were awful, and that they were put. So many men died before all that training and all that, their lives lost. Just not even, just a crash landing on that kind of thing to me. And Dad would talk about those Marines, and he was on invasion of Peleliu and Okinawa. In Okinawa, they pretty much walked into Okinawa, and then they got to fighting on the island. But on Peleliu, it was just vicious. And Marine, young guy, go through all that training, all his gear, and then boom, the amphibious craft gets blown up, and then it's
yeah.
just gone. It's just so yeah.
That certainly was one of the greatest generations. That's for sure.
They are the greatest generation.
Hmm.
We not we're not fit, we're not tough, and we're not ready. And we better get ready.
Hmm. Well, do you have any closing thoughts for people?
No, no. Other than I just appreciate you, Tony, for having me on. I keep putting the truth out there, brother. It hurts sometimes, but we need
You know,
it.
you know, it's
We're gonna lose our country.
I really appreciate you talking to just common people, because people who watch my channel are used to seeing. I'm a design build contractor, so they're used to seeing those kind of videos. And what I'm trying to do is bring them this kind of content, because I don't know. I just feel like for some reason I feel led to do it. I don't know. I can't
We're
explain
good.
it. Yeah, but
In the Baptist church, we call that your ministry, Tony.
that's right. That's right.
As long
I
as you
grew
don't,
up.
as long as you don't pass an offering plate my way, we're okay.
That's right. No, yeah. Uh, you should be passing the plate, right,
No,
for the campaign.
we'll
I'm just
see.
kidding.
There's time for that. I can't discuss that since I'm in my office.
I know. I'm just kidding. I guess
I
you
know.
can't. You can't even do uh, campaign humor while you're in your office. Are you? That's your DC office there?
No, I'm in Maryville, Blount County. I've got it here, and I've got one in Knoxville, of course, and then I've got Washington.
My mother was born in Wares Valley. Do you know where Wares Valley is?
I do. I
Yeah,
do.
yeah. That was a
Just,
our family came over from Ireland. That's the kind of the joke about the library, the Trinity College library behind me
yeah.
from Dublin. My family came over from Ireland about 1790 and settled in the Appalachian Mountains, and it's got a rich history there, and it's just awesome. That, that I don't think people realize how pretty East Tennessee is, um, with the mountains and everything. Well,
Gotcha.
thanks again, Tim. I really appreciate you spending. I know you're really busy,
That's all right,
and
Tony. Holler at me again. Let's get back together.
yeah,
Thank you
maybe
so much.
I'll have some better questions next time. But I
Oh, these
really
are great
appreciate it.
questions. Very thought provoking. They're unusual questions for me, so that's a little better. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. I appreciate it.
Great.
Good luck. Good luck. Okay.
You too, brother. Thank you. And I'll keep watching your deal here. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you. Bye.
See you. All right. Well, that was awesome. I predicted it would be awesome, because I can just tell. I don't know. You have this intuition that I was gifted with, and I can almost look at someone's eyes and see their intent. And how they treat other people, and I just knew that Tim would be a good guy and be a good guest. I do have a housekeeping thing to take care of. I had asked for questions, um, and I was going to do a giveaway, and I only got one question from a salty shellback, and he was the one who presented the question about what do you think about civil asset forfeiture, and can you do something about it? And boy, Tim just chimed right in on that one. I knew he would be kind of like a a good property rights guy. All good conservatives are. Uh, uh, so Salty, I'll be in touch with you about your $50 gift certificate or Amazon, however you want to do it. And so I appreciate that, and I'll have another call for questions. I'll have a video that comes out right before about a week before the interview, and it'll be a call for questions, and it'll be on the website, the PiFiShow.com. And you can submit the questions through the form there. I'll have a link, and I'll pull up the questions just like that. You can't see it. I've got a spreadsheet with all the questions on it. And then at the end, if it had been a group of people, I would do a drawing for the giveaway for those people. But anyway, thanks everyone. There's Cam Gaylor. He used to live up there near Tim Burchett. See, he corrected me. I hadn't heard so many people say Burchett. I made that mistake, but it's Burchett. So I finally got that straight. There's the Tic Tac guy. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Alexei Novitsky. He's my co-host sometimes. Jan. I recognize Jan and Daniel Green, Peter Gibson. Appreciate all you guys coming. It makes it worthwhile to do these things, and I really appreciate it. And I'm going to play Alex's new intro music on the way out. Thank you.
What you are about to see is a real-life story. The accounts have gone into great detail to give each